different opinions about food that wasn't fully cooked, half cooked, or even fully cooked. But if it's benefiting, if it's being enhanced, regarding putting it directly on a fire. And now the Gemara is going to discuss what happened if a person violated the law. That whatever the law was that he was not allowed to do regarding leaving food before Shabbat, because the rabbis were concerned you're going to come to stoke the fire. But he now the Gemara has a question: what happens if you forgot? Now that's the top of Lamed Ches 38a, begins from the bottom of 37b. Boy, minay Reb Chia bar Abba. They asked Reb Chia bar Abba, now on 38a, shachach kedera agabe kira. If someone forgot a pot on top of a stove, and Rashi says, according to the opinion that says that it's forbidden to leave the pot that wasn't fully cooked, and Tosfos says, Tosfos' opinion and Rashi's opinion that the halacha follows Chananya, as long as it's more than 50, let's say 50%, if we hold Machal ben Rusay is 50%, to be strict, so as long as it's 50% or more cooked, you can leave it on the fire. That's Tosfos and Rashi's opinion. And we said the Rif and the Rambam say no. Rif and the Rambam say even if it's 50% cooked, the only way you could leave it if it's fully cooked and if it's also deteriorating as a result. That's the other opinion. So Shalcha Kadeira Gabekira. Now, if according to the opinion of Chananya, that if it's 50% cooked, you can leave it on the fire. So therefore, the Gemara's question would be either that you didn't reach the level of Michael ben Nusay, it was less than 50% or less than 33%, whatever the opinion of Michael ben Nusay is, you didn't reach that level of cooking before the Shabbat, and you forgot, and you were supposed to take it off. You're planning on taking it off, but you forgot. You were inactive. You forgot. You didn't remove the pot before the Shabbat. So they asked him the question, Ishtik. He didn't respond. He didn't respond at all regarding the question. The next day, the rabbi who was asked the question, he went ahead and darash lahu, and he expounded to the people, and he said, "Hamevashel b'Shabbat b'shogeg." If someone, we have a precedent of someone who cooks. If someone unintentionally cooked on Shabbat, he forgot that today was Shabbat, right? Or he didn't know. He didn't know you're not allowed to cook. He thought you could cook water on Shabbat. He didn't know you're not allowed to cook water on Shabbat, boil up water on Shabbat. He did it b'shogeg, unintentionally. Yochal. So this Mishnah holds, this opinion holds, that you could go ahead and eat from their food on the Shabbat. Now, this is the opinion of Rav Meir. There are different opinions regarding this halacha. If something was cooked on Shabbat b'shogeg, this opinion holds you could eat from it on the Shabbat. However, b'meizid, if it was done unintentionally, because the Gemara brought in Chulin, the Gemara in other places, the Gemara brings the Machloket Tanaim. If I recall correctly, it's Rabbi Meir and Rabbi Yehuda, that they're arguing food that was cooked unintentionally on Shabbat, can you eat it right away, or do you have to wait till after Shabbat, to Moshe Shabbat? And also the food that was cooked, if a person intentionally cooked the food on Shabbat, is this food forbidden forever, or is this food forbidden only until Moshe Shabbat? And
same story with the going to get the bread at the market after Pesach. You have to wait the 18 minutes and then you can buy it.
Right. There's also discussion about Kadesh Yaseh. That you can't, not to, you have to wait the amount of time after Shabbat, so you shouldn't benefit from the actual work that was done on the Shabbat. There's a whole discussion in Halacha. They bring down over here regarding the Chafetz Chaim in the Shulchan Aruch. in Siman Shin Yud Chet, Aleph. So that's a siman in Shulchan Aruch. That's a siman of mavashel b'Shabbat, of cooking. If someone cooked on Shabbat, the laws that we're speaking about, the toll now is leaving food. Is what level does the food have to be? That's siman Reish and Gimel, 253. But now the question: what happens? That's what you have to do before the Shabbat. But what about a person? The way you're supposed to prepare food. What about if he didn't do the right way? That is Reish and Gimel talks about how you're supposed to do it. Shin Yichet talks about if you didn't do it the right way. So the Shulchan Aruch brings down, if someone cooks on Shabbat, intentionally, the person who cooked it, will never be able to eat from that food. He can never benefit from that food that he ate, that he cooked intentionally. This is the Shulchan Aruch's opinion. And ulachirim, other people are able to benefit from it right away. You don't have to wait. Right. Okay, very, very good. Now, when it says he's not, it's forbidden of him forever. So that's a good question. He's not allowed to eat it, and the Shabura says he's not allowed to even benefit from it. The one who cooked it, would sound like if he can't benefit from it, so he shouldn't be able to get. So he says he's not allowed to benefit from the work. But he could go ahead and meaning to say the value of the malacha. I mean, he can't. He cooked something was cooked, right? So the malacha, the forbidden act, created something that was raw, and now it came into a different stage as a result of the cooking. So the cooking per se, he can't benefit from. But if he sells it to somebody, so he's benefiting not from he's benefiting from money, right? So therefore, it would seem that he could benefit from the money of the, like it says, good morning, like the Chafetz Chaim, the Sharat Zion says that the Maaseh Shabbat, the forbidden act that was done on Shabbat, benefit could be it's permitted to benefit, but it's not. Again, but he can't only from the we're saying, but he can't with the actual eating of the item. He's not allowed to benefit from. And then he discusses Nathan's question: does he have to wait when we say that if he did it intentionally, he's not allowed to eat from it ever? But we said that other people on Saturday night, Motzei Shabbat, other people could eat it. And here we see he could eat it right away. Why could he eat it right away? People could eat it right away because only by an act of work that was done by a Gentile, right? If a Gentile will go ahead and cook and do something for me on Shabbat, a forbidden act, and he did an act in Malacha on Shabbat for me, right? Let's say he went ahead and he put on a fire to warm up previously cooked food, and he had no right to do that. Let's say he put it on an open fire, right? And he took food out of the refrigerator. Let's say if we have to see more of the halacha, but let's say, and he made a fire for me to warm up the food to me on Shabbat. He went in and he made a fire. So he did a malacha for me, the guy, right? So I can't benefit, not only on Shabbat, I can't benefit from it. If he did a malacha, if he did that, he had no right to do that for me. After Shabbat, I have to wait the amount of time. How long does it take for that food to warm up? Does this apply just to cooking food on Shabbat or anything else that comes? Right. So the Ramah, the Ashkenaz rabbi says he puts in or he did any of the other malachot on Shabbat. If again, the Shulchan Aruch is talking about if a person cooks, if a Jew cooks on Shabbat, or according to the Ashkenaz rabbi, which he puts in, we have to see what the Sfardim, if the Sfardim agree to that or not. It says who adin, or any of the 39 malachot. If a person intentionally violated, let's say a person carried, right, a non-Jew carried carried something on Shabbat. Sorry, not a Jew, a Jew, a Jew. We're talking about a Jew. A Jew carried, first we're talking about a Jew. The Jew carried something on Shabbat that he was not allowed to carry. He was in a place that let's say it was a Reshut Rabim, it was a public place that he didn't carry. And now I want to, for me to benefit from that, according to it would sound like from the Ramah, I would not be able to benefit from that type of work. There is a discussion in the Chafetz Chaim, in the Chayei Adam, is only that might make a difference in what type of work. Meaning to say, if let's say the Jew made a coat on Shabbat, tailored a coat on Shabbat, can I go ahead and use that coat that my secular neighbor he wanted to give me a gift for Hanukkah. So on Shabbat, he's not religious. So on Shabbat, he went ahead and he made a sweater for me. The whole day he's making a sweater for me. Now, can I benefit to use that sweater on Shabbat? I can't use that sweater on Shabbat, and I can't use that sweater on Shabbat. I have to in order for me to use that sweater, I have to wait till Saturday night to use that sweater. But if he carried, so some want to make a distinction between when there was a change in the actual item, like he took an item and he made a sweater took thread, a needle, and he made or whatever, he threads and he put together a sweater, or something where there was no actual change in the item, just carrying something from one domain to another domain. So some say if it was done unintentionally, some might say the person who did it might himself be able to benefit from it. If he did it intentionally, it's forbidden for him and other people. It's forbidden for him and other people until Saturday night. So some want to make a distinction, meaning we said if it was done unintentionally, right? The Shulchan Aruch is going to say if it was done unintentionally, the person who did the act cannot benefit from it, right? Some want to say, and the Shulchan Aruch holds that both the person who did the act unintentionally and also other people everybody's not allowed to benefit from it. If an act of Shabbat, a violation of Shabbat was done, someone cooked on Shabbat unintentionally, you were by your neighbor's house, you stayed over by your friend's house, whatever the case was, he stayed over by your house, and he came to your house, and you keep kashrut, and he put up a boiled a pot of water on Shabbat. He doesn't know. He's not religious Jew. You can't benefit. The Shulchan Aruch says nobody can benefit from that water on the Shabbat itself. That's the opinion of the Shulchan Aruch. Now, that's the Sephardi opinion. Now, we'll see there's other opinions on this matter. So again, let's just review to make something clear. The Shulchan Aruch says if something was done on Shabbat unintentionally, nobody could use it on the Shabbat. You have to wait till after Shabbat, right? Our Gemara, and if it was done intentionally, the Shulchan Aruch says the person who actually did the act can never eat from that, can never directly benefit from that act by eating from that act or using that item as is benefiting from that action. Other people, we said, if he did it intentionally, the Shulchan Aruch allows other people to benefit from it Saturday night. And we also said there is an opinion. Not everybody accepts this opinion. There is a lenient opinion that says that if someone carried something, a person, let's say a secular Jew, carried something on Shabbat in a public place, he didn't know, he could benefit from it. on that day. And then now again, let's get back to what Nathan brought up. Nathan brought up there's a concept that if a guy does something for me, like I gave an example. The guy on Shabbat turned on the fire and he boiled water for me on Shabbat. He did right. He had no right to do that. I can't boil water for myself. I can't tell the guy to boil water for me, right? Correct? And now he did it, let's say, he put it on before Shabbat, or let's say he put it on before, let's say Saturday afternoon, late in the afternoon. He put on the hot water. He boiled up a tea kettle, and it's still burning. It's still boiling as Shabbat. As Shabbat ends, the fire is still on. Now, right after Shabbat, I made Havdalah, and now can I go ahead and now I can't use it on Shabbat. He did that work for me. I can't benefit from it on Shabbat. But can I go ahead and benefit from that water the moment Shabbat is over? So Nathan brought up, he said, I can't. I have to wait the amount of time it takes to boil up that pot. Let's say it takes 10 minutes to boil up the pot of water. I have to wait till 10 minutes after Shabbat.
You can't have it any better than you would have had it if.
Right, because if I can have it, in 2 minutes after Shabbat, then I'm benefit. Then the concern is that I might come to do this. I might come to do this again. I might come to tell him to do this for me on Shabbat. In order for me to have benefit from it, right after Shabbat. Good morning, Jaime.
Good morning.
Thank you for joining.
Thank you for having me.
Pleasure. So we're discussing now, if somebody went ahead, if a Jewish person went ahead and intentionally he cooked, he did a very big sin. He cooked on Shabbat. He was not a God-fearing Jew. And we said that the Shulchan Aruch's opinion is that the person who cooked from it, will never be able to eat from that cooked food that he cooked on Shabbat. We're going to fine him that he can never eat from that food. But other people could eat from that food right away. Right after Shabbat, other people, even though if sin was done in that food, the Jew cooked that food intentionally on the Shabbat, but other people could benefit right after Shabbat. And he says the concept that you have to wait, it's called b'chdei sheyaseh, b'chdei sheyasu. The concept that sometimes we say, if a non-Jew did a malacha, did a act that was not able to be done. We gave the example. He put on a fire on Shabbat, and he boiled up water for me late Saturday afternoon, Shabbat afternoon. I can't the Jew, can only benefit from it after Shabbat, but I have to wait an amount of time that it takes to boil up that water, is because people, the prohibition of amira lakum, of saying things to the Gentile, it's very light in people's eyes. People think I could, the Shabbat guy is everything, turn on, do whatever, everything I need, cook, boil up the water for me, do this for me, do that, but it's not true. There's only certain allowances of what situations we allow the person to go ahead and have the guy do things for you. So therefore, we're afraid that if we're going to allow you to use the food, the water that it was cooked on late Shabbat afternoon, if you can allow you to use it right after Shabbat, then the next week you're going to go ahead and also tell him, you might come to tell him to go ahead and do it again. So you'll tell him on Shabbat to boil up the water for me, make the fire for me, so you'll be able to benefit from it right after Shabbat. And so you'll have your hot water the second Shabbat is over. And that's a problem, because he cooked it for you on the Shabbat. But something that's done by a Jew, when a Jew does a malacha, when a Jew does something wrong, we're not concerned that if you're going to allow me to benefit directly from the food that the Jew um, cooked on Shabbat. The Jew now, not the Jew who's not keeping the laws of Shabbat, intentionally boiled up the water. What are you afraid after Shabbat? So I'm not going to benefit from it on Shabbat. What are you afraid? I shouldn't benefit from after Shabbat because maybe I might come to tell him the next week that he should boil up the water for me. I'm not going to come to tell a Jew to go ahead and boil up water for me. Even the Jew who is not keeping the laws of Shabbat, the Jew who's keeping the laws, I'm not going to go tell him. When it comes to a Gentile, where people don't appreciate they're more lenient, they're more light, they make light of the prohibition of telling a guy to do things. So therefore, if we allow you to go ahead and use the water that he cooked up on Shabbat for you, then next week you're going to tell him again to cook up. If you like to use it right after Shabbat, if you benefit, you don't have to wait your 10 minutes to get your coffee. Right? You got it right away. So if it was a concern, you might come the next week to tell him to do it for you. But for the Jew, we're not as concerned that you're going to come tell him the next week he should cook it up for you. So that's just address Nathan's point. But our Gemara has the opinion, right? Our Gemara says that it says, "Amavasha b'Shabbat b'shogeg yochal," right? Our Mishnah says, our Gemara says, is going with the opinion that you could actually, if it was done b'shogeg, if the cooking was done unintentionally, it's permitted to be eaten. You don't have to wait. You don't have to wait till Saturday night, right? The Shulchan Aruch takes that opinion that if it was cooked on the Shabbat, it was done. If it was done unintentionally, nobody could benefit from that, and which is a more stricter opinion. The Chafetz Chaim brings down the Gemara has an argument, and the opinion of the Shulchan Aruch is Rabbi Yehuda, because that's how the Rif and the Rambam hold, and the Gaonim. However, the Vilna Gaon goes with Tosfot, and the other opinion, like Rameya, that holds that's more lenient, that if it was done unintentionally, everybody could use it right away. And interesting, right? So and Chafetz Chaim says if it's a time of great need, in a situation of great need, you could rely on that if it was cooked unintentionally, that you can actually use it on the Shabbat itself. Okay, so that seems to be a very important disagreement between the Sfard. At least the Sfardim is very clear what they hold. But unintentionally done on Shabbat, you can't use it until after Shabbat. But in the Ashkenazic halacha, there's room to be lenient if there is a great need, if the act was done unintentionally. Let's get back to the Gemara. So our Gemara's question was, if somebody forgot food on top of a fire before Shabbat, but he left the food in a situation where he was not supposed to before Shabbat, even though it was before Shabbat. But there, as we said, there's laws of what you could do with food on a fire before Shabbat. Under what circumstances are you allowed to leave the food on the fire before Shabbat? Under what circumstances you can't? And so if he left the food in a situation where he was not supposed to, so that was the question. And the rabbi answered by saying, you know what, I'm going to answer the question by showing you another case, and this case is going to be different. He says, back to 38a1, he says, Mavasha b'Shabbat shogeg yochal, someone cooked on Shabbat unintentionally, you're allowed to go ahead and eat. This is the opinion of Meir. B'mezid, if it was done intentionally, if a person, a Jew, intentionally cooked on Shabbat, he knew he was not supposed to, lo yochel, right? You can't eat it. The food is not able to be eaten if it was done intentionally. But this opinion holds is also more lenient about the intentional case. That if he did it intentionally, he can't benefit from it, or other people can't benefit until Saturday night. But Saturday night, the person who actually did the cooking, the Jew who did the cooking on Shabbat, could actually eat it Saturday night. The Sephardi opinion is that Shulchan Aruch's opinion is the guy who did it intentionally, he's never allowed to eat it. He can't eat it next Shabbat either. He never can eat that food that he intentionally cooked on the Shabbat. So the Gemara says, now, Vuloshna, but this situation, our case, when the guy left the food on before Shabbat, there's no difference between intentional or non-intentional. Now, what does it mean there's no difference? Doesn't mean there's no difference. Therefore, in both cases, you could use it on Shabbat, or does it mean both cases you can't use it? Right?
This is if you put it on.
We put on before Shabbat. Right. Let's say it wasn't cooked enough. Right. Let's say it was 20% cooked, 25% cooked. You put it on an open flame. Everybody holds if it's 25% cooked and you put it on an open flame before Shabbat, you're in violation of a rabbinic law, right? You were not supposed to.
Because it's not available to you.
What did you say, Nathan?
It's muktzah. It's not available to you at the outset of Shabbat.
Okay.
It's not available for you to eat in an edible format at the outset of Shabbat, at the beginning of Shabbat.
So Nathan is bringing up a different question. What use, should we say it's a problem of mukseh? Because when 25%, it was only 25% cooked before Shabbat, but so it's not fit for you, bein hashmashot. That's Nathan's question. When sunset came, it was not fit for you because, let's say, it wasn't edible. So why don't we say that it's considered mukseh, right? Because something that's when Shabbat enters, it's not fit. So shouldn't that make it mukseh? Unless you say, perhaps we have to research this to answer Nathan's question. I'm going to say something off the cuff, but needs to. But since if it's already in the course of becoming edible, maybe we don't. Maybe that this type of this won't be. We won't give it the same laws of muksa wouldn't apply to this type of item, which is already on the way to becoming. Your mind is on it. You're not separating. You're not. I mean, the muksa is usually something that's you separate your mind from it. I'm not going to use it, right? There's no use from it. It's not something, let's say, but something which is already I already did the action to make it usable. I already put it on the fire before Shabbat. Maybe that's different than a rock that was before Shabbat. You have a rock. A rock is mukseh. If you did something on the rock before Shabbat, let's say you painted the rock, you want to use the rock to hold down your napkins as a napkin hold down so the wind won't blow it away. So you already did something in the rock that designated before the Shabbat. Now the rock is no longer mukseh. So maybe perhaps we could say, again, I have to see if this is correct, but I'm suggesting that maybe this action that you did before the Shabbat and you created a situation where it's going to be edible, and you're not separating your mind from it. Generally, you separate your mind from a rock. What do I need to do for what rocks? What purpose do I have for rocks? I have no purpose for rocks, But this thing, when I actually prepared it before the Shabbat for the purpose of Shabbat. Maybe that's not called mukset. Maybe the laws of mukset won't apply. I'm going to speak it over in the yeshiva, Nathan, see if that's the Hashem. I got to get back to you on that. If that would be the logic, and it's on the course of becoming edible. Now, that's the question of our Gemara, and here the Gemara says it's no difference whether you intentionally you forgot the food on the fire before Shabbat, or you intentionally put the food on the fire before Shabbat. There's no difference in intentional and unintentional. Now I'm going to have the question. No difference, that means it is permitted in both cases. That just like unintentional cooking on Shabbat is permitted. So here, whether you intentionally, unintentionally put the food before Shabbat, it's permitted, or it's both cases it's forbidden. That we're going to say whether you did it intentionally or unintentionally put the food on the fire before Shabbat, both cases will be forbidden. Now, on the surface, what would you say? Without going into the answer, we'll see the answer soon. You would have said that maybe you should, that this is a case of rabbinic law, like you were pointing out. You were violating rabbinic law by leaving the food before Shabbat. And even if you intentionally placed it before Shabbat on the fire, there was a violation of rabbinic law. Cooking on Shabbat itself, when you go ahead and you cook up food on Shabbat itself, that's actually violation of what? Of Torah law. So to say that now the question, are we going to be more strict on the rabbinic law than the Torah law? Sometimes we need to be more strict on the rabbinic law, because sometimes rabbinic law needs chizuk, needs extra strength, not extra strength Tylenol, but extra strength. Why does it need extra strength, rabbinic law? Because some people don't appreciate rabbinic law enough. Some people don't adhere to it enough. So we're going to see what our Gemara is going to say. Are we going to be more strict on this violation of rabbinic law? Now, for sure, according to Rameir, at least according to this opinion, if it was done unintentionally before Shabbat, right? Okay, no, let's see. No, because we're going to see, if you say, let's see what the Gemara says. My veloshna, what does it mean it's no difference over here? Rav Yosef said, he says both cases will be permitted. If you did it, even intentionally, you left it before Shabbat. You intentionally placed it before Shabbat on the fire. You could use it on Shabbat, according to this opinion. Why? When you cook something, you did an action. Therefore, intentionally, when you go ahead and you cooked intentionally on Shabbat, you went on Shabbat, you did an action. But when you did not do an action, what does it mean you didn't do an action? You placed it before Shabbat, but to violate, you just didn't remove it. Even when you intentionally placed it before Shabbat, you could just remove it. That's not called, you could just take it off. The problem is that you didn't remove it before Shabbat. Therefore, by being inactive, we're not going to give you such a fine, and we're going to allow you even b'mezid nami yochal. Even according to this opinion, even if you intentionally placed it before Shabbat on the fire, but your sin is not intentionally placing it on the fire before Shabbat. Your sin is not removing it before Shabbat. Therefore, for being inactive, we're not going to fine you, and you could use it on the Shabbat, even though you did a terrible thing, according to this opinion. However, the other opinion, there's a bet. The bet says that this will be the halacha, which seemed to be the halacha, surah. Both cases, even the unintentional leaving food before Shabbat on the fire, you didn't know the law, you still can't benefit from it on Shabbat. We'll look at that halacha maybe tomorrow. Because when you cook, there's no issue of tricking. When you cook something, you're not going to come to trick. We're going to see what this trick is with bishogeg. So therefore, bishogeg yochal. Maybe you're going to go, if you did it unintentionally, you could eat. However, here's the issue of a high, the atila rumei. It's people make a trick. What do they say? They go ahead and they do it intentionally. If you're going to allow the person to eat the food that he placed unintentionally before Shabbat on the fire, you know what he's going to do? Intentionally, he's going to put the food before Shabbat, and then he's going to say, you know what? I did it unintentionally. So therefore we say, no, we're not going to allow you to eat from the food that even if you unintentionally placed it before Shabbat, we can't allow you to eat from it because of the times, if we're gonna allow that, and the world and the general many people in the population will intentionally place it before Shabbat and say on Shabbat, "Oh, I forgot it. I meant to take it off before Shabbat," but that's not true. Therefore, just to do that, protect that, we don't allow you to eat from it on the Shabbat, even the guy who did it unintentionally. Okay, we'll see more tomorrow, but fascinating idea. Have a great day, everybody. Jaime, great to have you back. And Asaf, have a great day. All the best, Jaime. All the best, Asaf. Take care.
See you tomorrow.
Yeah, see you tomorrow, everybody. All the best. And everyone should have an easy fast tomorrow, everybody. Bye-bye.